లేదంటే we can have another speaker in the meantime, so we can
yeah, no problem yeah, I think one second now okay, we'll move on. Jaideer garu, I think we'll catch up with the perspective of the book, and I thought he would welcome all the speakers. Jaideer garu, are you able to hear me? మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ చేయండి.
యా, ఇక్కడ జైదీర్. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఎక్కడున్నారు జైదీర్ గారు?
ఇదిగో బమ్మిడి పక్కన.
అందుకే పక్కన అంటే ఐ డోంట్ నో, ఐ యామ్ నాట్.
Sanjay ran, then Bamidi, then Jaideer.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, from Desidev everyone. Okay, looks like there are some technical issue. Jaitra, Vijay, Jaitra anunnaru evaru? Jaitra? Jaideer garu. Okay. Sorry. Okay, Jaideer garu. See, I would like to request you, right, to unmute yourself, right? Please unmute yourself, or the gentleman who is next to you, please ask him to unmute.
Okay.
Yes.
Jaideer garu, sir, ఇప్పుడు మీ వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుంది. You can please set the perspective why, how we got this book, and welcome the speakers to move on this occasion.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening as per Indian Standard Time, and శుభ సాయంత్రం తెలుగు వాళ్ళకి. చాలా బాధాకరంగా ఉంది. రచయిత జైల్లో ఉన్నాడు, వాళ్ళ తల్లి శ్మశాన వాటికలో ఉంది. మనమందరం ఇంట్లో బంధింపబడ్డాం. కోవిడ్ కాలంలో మనందరం హౌస్ అరెస్ట్ లో ఉన్నాం. అయినప్పటికీ కూడా ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని మనము రిలీజ్ చేస్తున్నాం. We are releasing this book. Writer is in the jail and her mother is buried in this thing, and we are house arrested. Even though I am very happy that the book is releasing to the international community and Indian people. Echo of freedom. The tagline is free GN Saibaba and all political prisoners. This is the title of the book. ఈ పుస్తకం అవసరం చాలా ఉంది. ఎందుకంటే ఇంటర్నేషనల్ కమ్యూనిటీ నుంచి మనకి సపోర్ట్ వచ్చింది. సాయిబాబా గారికి ఇతర ఖైదీలను విడుదల చేయాలని అంతర్జాతీయ లా ఏం చెబుతుంది, దానిలో ఉండేటువంటి సామంజస్యం ఏమిటి, దేశాలు ఎందుకు వాటిని గౌరవించాలి. ఇది వరకు ఇలాంటి సమస్యలు ఏర్పడ్డప్పుడు అంతర్జాతీయ సమాజం చేసినటువంటి విజ్ఞప్తులని పాలకులు దానిని స్వీకరించడం జరిగింది. అయితే ఇప్పుడున్న పరిస్థితులు అందుకు భిన్నంగా ఉన్నాయి. చాలా బాధగా ఉంది. మనం సాయిబాబా లాంటి వాళ్ళు ఎంతో మందిని జైళ్లలో మగ్గేలా చేస్తున్నారు. ఉదాహరణకి వాళ్ళ అమ్మగారిని చూద్దామని రావడానికి పిటిషన్ పెట్టుకుంటే దాన్ని కూడా తిరస్కరించారు. మానవీయ ప్రభుత్వమే కనుక అయ్యుంటే వాళ్ళ తల్లి గారిని కొడుకు దగ్గరికి తీసుకుపోయి చూపించవలసింది. అది మానవీయత. కేసులు పెట్టారు, కానీ మానవీయతని ప్రదర్శించండి. ఆ కేసులలో వాస్తవాలు ఏంటి అనేది చరిత్ర చెప్తుంది, కానీ డీలింగ్ షుడ్ బి హ్యూమన్. ఆ హ్యుమానిటీ ఉండాలి అనేది ఇవాళ చెప్పబడుతున్నది. తల్లిని ఎందుకు తీసుకుపోయి తనే చూపించలేదు? ఆమె క్యాన్సర్ తో బాధపడుతున్న పేషెంట్, 90% అంగవైకల్యంతో ఉన్నటువంటి కొడుకును చూసుకోవాలని అనుకుంటుంది కదా. ఏ తల్లి అయినా తల్లి దగ్గరికి తనయుడు రావాలి, కానీ ఆ బాధపడుతున్నటువంటి తల్లినైనా తనయుడి దగ్గరికి తీసుకుపోకపోవడం బాధాకరం. ఇకపోతే సాయిబాబా జైలు నుంచి విడుదల కావాలనేది ప్రజల ఆకాంక్ష. బెయిల్ ఇప్పించండి అని ప్రజా సంఘాలు, వ్యక్తులు నినదిస్తున్నారు, కోరుతున్నారు, విజ్ఞప్తులు పంపిస్తున్నారు. కానీ వాళ్ళందరూ కూడా అడుగుతున్న వాళ్లలో ప్రపంచంలోని వివిధ దేశాల నుంచి 17 దేశాల నుంచి ఈ విజ్ఞప్తులు వచ్చినాయి. ఆ రిపోర్ట్స్ అన్నీ కలిపి ఈ పుస్తకంలో ఉంటుంది. ఆ రిపోర్ట్సే సాయిబాబాకి సపోర్టు, మద్దతు ఎంత ఉందో మనకు తెలుస్తుంది. అయితే ఈ జైలులో ఉన్నటువంటి వాళ్ళు సాయిబాబాతో సహా వాళ్ళ ఆత్మ గౌరవాన్ని కాపాడుతూ ఈ విజ్ఞప్తులు చేయబడ్డాయి. అంతర్జాతీయంగా వాళ్ళ ఆశయాలకు భంగం కలగకుండా చూశారు. అది గొప్పతనం. హ్యాండ్స్ ఆఫ్ టు ఫ్రెండ్స్ అండ్ రైటర్స్ అండ్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్. 90% అంగవైకల్యం ఉండి కూడా నిరంతరం ప్రజల పక్షం వహించే సాయిబాబాను మనం మద్దతిద్దాం. 90% అంగవైకల్యం ఉండి కూడా ప్రజల పక్షం ఉన్నాడు. అది గొప్ప విషయము. దేశంలో గాని విదేశాల్లో గాని ఇలాంటి వ్యక్తి మరొకరు లేరు. అతడు ఒక మేధావి, అతడు ఒక కవి, అతడు ఒక యాక్టివిస్ట్. కానీ అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం అతడు ప్రజల కోసం పనిచేశాడు తప్ప ఎక్కడా కూడా ఎలాంటి అనుచితమైనటువంటి పని చేయలేదు కదా. కాబట్టి ఆయన పట్ల మానవీయత ప్రదర్శించాలి. అది రాజ్యాంగ పరంగా, లాతో, నైతికంగా కూడా ఈ 3 రకాలుగా మనము సాయిబాబాని విడిపించుకోవడానికి ఉపయోగించే ఆయుధాలు కావాలని నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను. జైళ్ల వల్ల, నిర్బంధాల వల్ల ఇప్పుడు సాయిబాబాకి ప్రాణాపాయం ఏర్పడుతున్నది. ఈ నిర్బంధాన్ని తగ్గించండి, మేము బెయిల్ ఇవ్వండి మహాప్రభో అని అడగం, కానీ బెయిల్ తెచ్చుకోగలము. ఇచ్చే వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు, మానవీయ వ్యవస్థలు ఉన్నాయి. ప్రభుత్వాలు కూడా, రాజకీయ నాయకులు కూడా మానవీయతనే ప్రదర్శిస్తారు. ప్రదర్శించక తప్పదు. అది ప్రజాబలం. ఆ ప్రజాబలానికి ఎవరైనా తలొగ్గాల్సిందే. జీవించే హక్కు కావాలి. బెయిల్ ఖైదీలకు హక్కుగా మారాలి. ఖైదీలకు స్వేచ్ఛ కల్పించడంలో మనం విజయం సాధించాలి. ఇవాళ ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని స్వేచ్ఛగా 10 మందిలోకి పంపిస్తున్నాం. మనందరం కలిసి ఇక్కడ ఈ సంతోషాన్ని, విషాదాల మధ్య సంతోషాన్ని గడుపుకోవడం కూడా మన హక్కు. ఆ హక్కుని మనం వినియోగించుకుంటున్నాం. సాయిబాబా ఇతర ఖైదీలందరినీ కూడా విడుదల చేయని, బేషరతుగా విడుదల చేయాలని, వాళ్ళకి స్వేచ్ఛని కల్పించవలసినటువంటి అవసరం ఉందని అది గమనించండి అని కోరుతూ నేను ముగిస్తున్నాను.
Sir, thank you so much. I'll for the benefit of the non-Telugu audience, I would just succinctly put what Mr. Jaideer Girmal wanted to express on this occasion. He was expressing his agony that even when his mother was on deathbed, Sai Baba was denied bail. It is understandable, at least to the extent that you have incarcerated Sai Baba for unfair reasons, though, but then at least you should have shown a minimum humanity to bring him to his mother, who is severely ailing and almost reaching death. And while he was also saying that there is an imminent need imminent responsibility on everyone to raise a slogan to right to live. The government might have incarcerated Sai Baba, but then with the struggles and with these movements from the people, they should be able to rescue him back from the system. And of course, history will prove that Sai Baba is ultimately, and he is innocent, and he's a man of people. So I think this is what briefly I can sum up what Mr. Jaideer has shared with the audience. Now, the next one, what I would like to invite is Madam Nandita Narayan. We'll have to say something about this. Nandita Narayan Madam is she heads the DUTA, Delhi University Teachers Association. She's the one who is standing shoulder to shoulder with Sai Baba's family and taking up the struggle on her shoulders. Sai Baba post incarceration, he was denied bail, but there are a lot of harassment which is going on from the university administration. And probably I think Nandita ma'am will be able to throw some light on how academically also he was from academic sections also how he was harassed. So now I would request Nandita ma'am, please share a few words about your experiences and your perspective about this occasion. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Victor, and all friends who are gathered today, who are viewing. Well, I just want to make a small correction. I'm not heading the DUTA now. I was the president of the DUTA for 4 years, and at the time when Dr. Saibaba was arrested, before that when he was detained, and then we were fighting for his bail and so on. I was the president of the DUTA at that time, and therefore it became my prime responsibility also as his representative in the teaching in the teachers of Delhi University to take up his case for justice. I had come to know Dr. Saibaba earlier as an outstanding scholar and a teacher who is much loved by his students, and a poet and a human rights activist who had been taking up all kinds of causes from a very early age. I mean, that's what I came to know later, but even in the university, I would see that he would be taking up various issues of social justice. He was very active at the time of the World Socialist Forum and to counter the things that he thought were not okay about the World Socialist Forum. He was taking up the rights of the disabled, he was taking up the rights of Dalits, of women, and he was talking about all the negative changes in education policy. So he was very active, and even as a teacher in Ramlal Anand College, he was extremely devoted to duty. Often you find that those who are very active in other areas do not take up a lot of work within the college. But Dr. Saibaba took up all responsibilities in various committees, in the curriculum making, in the examination work. He would be in a dedicated way going every day and doing his corrections and coming back, and he would be often the teacher in charge of all the corrections. And in fact, it is during one of his periods when he was coming back for lunchtime, after having been doing corrections in Daulatram College, that he was abducted by the police, just kidnapped. And nobody in the family even came to know until much later. He was able to make a call from somewhere on the way. And that's how we came to know that this has happened. So, what I would really like to say is that, I mean, of course, it's a terrible shame of what is happening in the country now, is that every kind of dissent is being crushed. And you find that, even those who are speaking up on education policy or rights are now being, subjected to violent attacks within the universities, whether it's JNU or Hyderabad Central University or Jamia. But even way back when the UPA government was there, when this harassment had started, I just like to request everyone to please mute themselves because there is background noise coming. Yeah, so even way back at that time, there was a special kind of attack reserved for those who were speaking about issues where the corporates had invested a lot in terms of taking away the resources of our country. And I'm talking about the tribal areas. So when people ask that why are such people singled out, if you are just doing your work and not speaking up about what's happening in society, perhaps you will be left alone. Although today I think even that is not happening. You're quietly doing your work like Dr. Kafil, and then only because he was devoted to duty and he helped out all those children in terms of oxygen cylinders in Gorakhpur, he has been persecuted endlessly after that. But otherwise, the general notion is that if you just mind your business and you will be okay. But if you take up any issues of underprivileged, of other sections of society, and at that time particularly, it was the tribal, the atrocities on tribals, which was a very sensitive issue for the government because the corporates were pushing all kinds of illegal activities, illegal mining, taking away all the resources, and inflicting untold misery on our tribals. The government was almost dictated to arrest or to persecute tribals who were speaking up against this kind of taking away of their rights, their forests, their land, and their resources. That's one of the reasons perhaps why Binayak Sen was also attacked earlier. And of course, thousands of tribals whom one didn't even come to know about, and people from urban areas who were, intellectuals who had a heart to stand up for the suppressed and stand up for the underprivileged, like Dr. Saibaba, who spoke up against Operation Green Hunt and other things. And they were particularly singled out and attacked because their voices had to be crushed. Dr. Saibaba was an extremely effective voice for the underprivileged, even in international circles. He was traveling abroad, he was invited to speak about these issues. So it was becoming dangerous for those who were dictating this kind of policy. And it's very clear that how in this whole period, finally when the judgment came, it was totally against all the evidence that was there. There was no evidence at all, in fact, and they got some policemen to give some sort of evidence, and it was laughable. Even the people who were called up, like the barber from near his house was called to give evidence. He said, I don't know anything about it, but I'm being made to give this kind of evidence. So evidence didn't add up, and the judgment was not really in keeping with the evidence. But in the judgment, what was, even the charges that were there did never accused him of ever having been part of or involved in any kind of violence. But the biggest crime was that he was supposed to be part of a group, which also was never proved, which is hampering development. So that is the key to the whole thing, that this notion of development for whom, and development meaning profiteering by, the corporates, that is something which they will not allow to be questioned or hampered in any way. And that is why Saibaba was attacked. And then, of course, you have the laws like the UAPA, where you don't need to have a trial for so long. Anybody who speaks up for anybody else is going to be attacked and branded as a terrorist or complicit in some way. And we've seen that happening one after the other, whether it is Professor Sudha Bharadwaj, who's helping, such an eminent educationist and legal expert, and simply because she had left a life of luxury and was helping out people to file their cases where the poor, illiterate tribals would not be able to manage to fight their own legal cases. So if you move out of your comfort zone and help people in these circumstances, then you become public enemy number one. And earlier people were not attacked with such impunity, but now it is no holds barred. You do not expect much redressal, even unfortunately from the judiciary, which is continuously giving bail and going out of its way to protect those who instigate violence, those who have been recorded as having been part of violent activities, who are convicted for murder of thousands of people, but they are given bail on medical grounds, whether it is Maya Kotnani or Babu Bajrangi. And now you have Pragya, who's undergoing trial for terrorist activities, and she is an MP. So there is a complete inversion of the rule of law, complete inversion of the sense of justice. And those of our outstanding people, really the heroes of this country, who are standing up for the poor and the oppressed, who are coming out of their comfort zone, who need not have done that, they are being targeted specifically because they are doing so. Their voices are being crushed, so that the message goes that you will not mess with us, you will not question our policy, you will not question at all. So earlier it was, people like me never really managed to do much beyond our workplace. We were busy with our struggles in the teaching community for education reform and against the kind of so-called neoliberal reform, which was basically privatization of higher education. But I do know that there were so many of our friends who were going beyond that and talking about the conditions of the tribals and the conditions of people in other areas of the country, and they have been targeted because of that. Now, of course, they have come to our doorstep and they're targeting those of us who are even speaking out against education policy, fee hike, and so on, which is all part of that policy. So really the wolf has come to our door, it has entered our houses, and one by one they can take away anyone on any, frame any ridiculous charges without any evidence whatsoever. And however well-known you may be in terms of your activism, in terms of your commitment to the cause of peaceful protest, they can frame any charge against you. however ridiculous, and they seem to be getting away with it. So, friends, I mean, at this point of time, first of all, I would really like to reach out to Dr. Saibaba's family. Dr. Saibaba faced this kind of harassment even within the university. Whatever, while he was on suspension, he was not given his full allowance. He was harassed by the college administration in a variety of ways. Again and again, his services were sought to be terminated while he was, the case is still on and his appeal is pending. And, we have innumerable precedents where no precipitative action is taken until the final appeal is heard. And, if you lose at the final Supreme Court level or at the level of the president. So this is untold harassment that he and his family have been made to face, because particularly from the time when this new government in 2014 came in, and groups like the Akhil Bharati Vidyarthi Parishad, the student wing of the BJP, made it a policy to attack him. Even if he came to the college for some work to submit an application, he would be attacked by them, and the administration did not have the courage to stand up to these student vandals, to these stormtroopers. And much like what was happening in Nazi Germany, we find that you have these stormtroopers now taking over. They've infiltrated almost every organization, whether it is police mitras, they're called. You can see along with the police, which is extremely high-handed and communalized, you will find these people who are not in uniform, who are clearly coming from a particular ideological persuasion, which we believe that is the RSS, and they are indulging in extreme kind of violence with impunity. So these are the ways in which these things have happened. I would like to convey my deep regard and condolences, heartfelt regret that we were not able to secure parole for Saibaba, even to see his mother, who was really being a cancer patient. Literally, that would have been her last stages. So we have a completely inhuman dispensation, which has repeatedly denied him bail, even on medical grounds for himself. He's a 90% disabled person who is suffered immensely medically while in prison, and his is a fit case for bail on medical grounds and bail even otherwise, but it has repeatedly been denied to him. It just shows how vindictive and how inhuman our authorities, our governments have become. Even in COVID times, where people who are otherwise vulnerable, have comorbidities, are much more vulnerable to catching COVID. So you can see the case of a poet, Varavara Rao, or you have so many other people who have been diagnosed with COVID, Akhil Gogoi and others, and it seems to make no difference. While there are many hardened, cases which are much more serious, who have been convicted of murder and other things, they have been released because there is a policy that at this time your jails should not be overcrowded. But political prisoners who are in prison, who are prisoners of conscience, who are there because they've chosen to speak out against injustice, against oppression, and for the rights of the underprivileged, and that is the only reason that they are behind bars, they're incarcerated, they are being given this kind of treatment. So it is a very difficult time for our country, friends, and we have no choice but to continue to speak out. Hani Babu has been targeted because he has spoken up for persons like Saibaba, for injustice against Dalits, OBCs. He was in the forefront of the movement to secure the rights of the OBCs and Dalits in our universities across the country, who have been denied their reservation as per the law, as per the constitution. He has continuously filed RTIs and was able to collect information and put it in the public domain, which revealed the abysmal state of affairs in terms of the implementation of the reservation policy. This is one of the reasons why we feel that Dalit intellectuals in particular are being targeted. These Dalit intellectuals who are progressive are not the kind who have skeletons in their cupboard with corruption and so on, and they are silenced like some of the leaders of political parties, unfortunately, as we see, which is happening with the BSP and some other parties. And that is why they're targeted much more. because these voices need to be silenced. Because what these the neoliberal forces who have a marriage of convenience with the Hindutva, Brahmanwadi forces, the Manuvadi forces, are most terrified of any kind of intersection of left progressive ideas of the minorities who are being persecuted and the Dalits. I mean, this is a formidable combination, which is say 90% of our population. This is what they're really afraid of. And people like Saibaba, people like Hani Babu, and people like maybe even Chandrasekhar Azad of the Bhim Army. I don't know enough about him, but from whatever I can make out, people like Jignesh Bhavani, and there are many others. The Dalit intellectuals are the ones to be feared the most, and therefore to be crushed. So there is a method in the madness. It's the reason why people are targeted, and the reason is that they have left their comfort zones. They are the real heroes of our country. They are the real patriots. They are the real world citizens who work for world peace, whose heart beats for all people, and who sacrifice their own comfort to be able to take up these causes, even putting their own lives at risk. So whether it is Professor Shoma Sen or Gautam Nablaka, whoever, history of a lifetime of taking up these causes, and Varavara Rao and a whole lot of others who have been incarcerated. I salute all of you, and I also appeal to all people that when they came for the Jews, I did not speak out. And when they are coming for all those who are speaking out, if you do not speak out, then they will come for you. And there will be nobody left to speak out for you. They have already come for you. You see the state of affairs in the pandemic. They are not, people are falling like nine pins. Where is our medical care? So even if you think you're safe by not speaking out, you're going to be targeted because you have not spoken out against privatization of healthcare. Look at what is happening to our migrant workers. Look at what is happening to our education. The national education policy is a blueprint for complete privatization. None of us will be able to afford to send our children to higher education, and the quality of the education is going to be pathetic. So you can see that every single person is going to be affected, even if you are associated with the ruling party. Your child is going to need education in this country. Are you going to allow your child to be trained to become a violent person who breaks the law and is going to be then sometime or the other behind bars, trained to be violent? Or are you going to work for his getting a decent education and work for the betterment of the country, for the betterment of his own family and society, and for this country, as per the dreams of our founding fathers, B.R. Ambedkar, Periyar, and all the people who led these massive struggles, who came together to bring about a wonderful constitution which recognizes our diversity, plurality, and all our separate struggles for freedom, for equality, and for a decent life in our country. So this is my appeal to all people in our country, that this is the time to speak out. Tomorrow we will be like Germany, completely devastated, and we already are to some extent devastated. But even now it is not too late. If we speak out now, we might be able to stem the tide and have our heroes released from incarceration and allow them to live and work and peacefully protest and dissent, which is their right under our constitution. Thank you very much, friends. And once again, I salute Saibaba, Vasanta, and Ramdev, Manjira, the whole family, for their indomitable courage. And I pay my tributes to Saibaba's mother-in-law, who is a wonderful, warm human being. I interacted with her, and it's a great loss for all of us. But we pay our tributes to her. She has had extraordinary difficulties in her life when her child was struck with polio at a very young age, and how in extreme poverty they were able to manage to give the best education and stand by the family. My hats off to them, hats off to her, and to the whole family. And friends, thank you very much.
Right. Madam, thank you so much for sharing some of your experiences with Saibaba and Saibaba family. For the benefit of the Telugu audience, I would like to put a small translated version in a very brief manner. Nandita Narayan garu Delhi University nundi Saibaba to kalisi eno poratallo palgonna vyakti ame. ఈ విషయంలో అంటే ప్రధానంగా 2-3 సెంటెన్స్లో నేను కంప్లీట్ చేస్తాను, సో దట్ మీరు సమ్మరీ వెంటనే అర్థం చేసుకునేలా ఉంటుంది. ఈరోజు పరిస్థితులు ఎలా ఉన్నాయంటే కేవలం అనుమానం మీద మాత్రమే అరెస్ట్ చేయగలిగి మిమ్మల్ని జైల్లో తోసేసే పరిస్థితులు ఉన్నాయి. ఇందుకు సాయిబాబాను కొన్ని రిడిక్యులస్ ఛార్జెస్ మీద సాయిబాబాను అరెస్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. అయితే ఈరోజు ఈ విషయం గురించి, ఈ నాజీ ప్రవర్తన గురించి మనము వాయిస్ రేజ్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. సాయిబాబాను వర్చువల్గా కిడ్నాప్ చేసి అరెస్ట్ చేసిన సందర్భం మనం చూసినాము. కాబట్టి ఈరోజు మనం దీనికి వ్యతిరేకంగా మనం వాయిస్ రేజ్ చేయకపోతే రేపు మనల్ని కూడా తీసుకెళ్లే పరిస్థితి ఒకటి వస్తుందని చెప్పి అందరికీ ఒక కాషన్ చెప్తూ మనం ఈ పోరాటం దృష్ట్యా ప్రతి ఒక్కరు ఒక ఫార్వర్డ్ థింకింగ్ తో ముందుకు అడుగు వేయాలని చెప్పి ఆమె ఆశిస్తుంది. సో వెరీ బ్రీఫ్ గా దిస్ ఇస్ వాట్ షీ హస్ స్పోకెన్. నౌ మే ఐ రిక్వెస్ట్ Sanjay ji to speak a few words and his perspective about this particular occasion. Sanjay Kak is well-known filmmaker. I think I don't think he would require any introduction over here. His Red Ants movie, which he has shot on ML movement in India, is well known to everyone. Now I request Sanjay ji, please share a few words to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you all for making this possible. This virtual meeting. Today is a particularly poignant day for all of us. As we know, Dr. Saibaba's mother passed away earlier this afternoon, and we know how important it was for him to try to meet her despite all the difficulties of the last 5 or 6 years. And we know that twice his parole application was rejected. Various excuses were given, and what all of us were most afraid of has finally happened. She has passed away. She had been suffering from cancer, and Dr. Saibaba was unable to see her. So obviously our deepest condolences to the family, to Sai, who has no means of even receiving our condolences, but to Vasanta and the rest of the family. I was briefly looking at the publication that has been put together, and which is the reason why we are assembling online. And it struck me that what remains to be done to draw attention to Dr. Saibaba's case. In a sense, when you have campaigns, and I speak here as a member of the Defense Committee, and you often wonder that are we doing enough? What more can we do? How do we draw more attention to Saibaba's case? And the fact remains is that this publication tells us that in some ways, word of his situation has traveled very far. I mean, I was mentioning the fact that the list of signatories who wrote a letter in support of Dr. Saibaba, it probably includes some of the biggest names in universities, both in the United States and in Europe. There was a official report put in the UN system by the 3 UN special rapporteurs, which includes the special rapporteur who looks at people with disabilities and the special rapporteur on torture. So in a sense, it's at the highest levels that people have taken note. They have written to the government of India asking them to conform to procedure and to see that Dr. Saibaba is treated better than he is. So what is it that, what is the situation then? I think that to me, it seems to me that it is a test of wills, basically. They are testing Dr. Saibaba's will. Of course, he has been incarcerated for all these years. He is in an under cell. He does not have appropriate health facilities. He has not provided the assistance that someone with 90% disability needs. and in a sense, they are they are testing his will to see like how far can they push him. But at the same time, they're also testing our will to see how long can we go on. And then, as has already been pointed out by various speakers, Dr. Saibaba went to prison, and Rona Wilson was one of the key people in the Defense Committee. And then Rona went to prison, and then Dr. Heni Babu was playing a crucial role, and now Dr. Heni Babu has been arrested. So, in a sense, what Nandita Narayan referred to earlier, that it's coming closer and closer to us. But it is a kind of test of wills, and as members of civil society, I think the only our tribute to the strength of purpose that people like Dr. Saibaba have shown can only be by showing an equal amount of resoluteness. I mean, we know of the conditions under which Varavara Rao has been through, of Shoma Sen, of a whole list of people, apart from those whose names we don't know, who are in prison for unnamed, unspoken of accusations. So I think that each time we gather to speak at moments like this, it just, I think, more than it. I like to think of it that apart from the fact that it's a moment to measure up to our own effort and how much have we done, how much more can we do to keep these issues alive, but it's also to remind ourselves that we are being tested. And these are terrible times, and we know that, and they may even get worse. But our challenge is to match up to that test, that if it's a test of will, then will we be adequate to the challenge that is being posed before us. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and because there are many other people waiting to speak. Thank you very much for putting this together. And once again, our condolences to Dr. Saibaba's family on the loss of his mother, to his brother, to his wife, and to their daughter. Thank you.
Great. Sanjay ji, thank you so much for addressing us. For the benefit of the Telugu audience, I would again put it in a very succinct form what you have spoken. Sanjay garu emantarante సంజయ్ గారు డిఫెన్స్ కమిటీ నుండి ఒక సభ్యుడిగా కూడా మాట్లాడుతున్నాడు. ప్రధానంగా ఈ మెసేజ్ లో మనం అందుకోవాల్సింది ఏంటంటే, సాయిబాబాను ఎంతవరకు పుష్ చేస్తున్నారంటే ఎంతవరకు బతకగలడా అని చెప్పి అన్నట్టుగా పుష్ చేస్తున్నారు ఈ ప్రభుత్వం. ఆయన ఎంతవరకు బతకగలుగుతాడు అంటే ఎంత ఆ చనిపోయే ఎడ్జ్ వరకు లాగి ఆయన చంపడం దాకా లాగి ఆయన పటుత్వాన్ని వీళ్ళు పరిశీలిస్తున్నారు. అదొకటే కాదు, నిజానికి ప్రజలు కూడా ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో, ప్రజాస్వామ్యం గురించి ఎవరైతే ఆశిస్తున్నారో వాళ్ళు ఎంతవరకు దీన్ని దాన్ని ఎంతవరకు వాళ్ళు తీసుకోగలరు అనే దాన్ని కూడా వీళ్ళు పరిశీలిస్తూ దాన్ని పుష్ చేస్తూ వస్తున్నారు. సో దీనికి వ్యతిరేకంగా మనము మాట్లాడాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందని చెప్పి సంజయ్ గారు చెప్పారు. సో దట్స్ సో మచ్ నైస్ ఆఫ్ యూ సంజయ్ జీ. అండ్ ఓకే, విల్ నెక్స్ట్ మూవ్ ఆన్. ఇన్ ద మీన్ వైల్ ఐ జస్ట్ వాంట్ టు సే సంథింగ్. సాజీ గారు, హలో సాజీ గారు, సాజీ గారు, are you able to hear me? సాజీ గారు?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, సాజీ గారు, just unmute Katyayani madam. There is one Katyayani madam.
Yeah, నేను లైవ్ లో వినిపిస్తుంది, చెప్పండి.
Yeah, Katyayani madam ను కొద్దిగా అన్మ్యూట్ చేయండి. And also open her video.
Yeah, Katyayani madam is there, yes.
Yeah, you can open her video also.
Yeah.
Okay. కాత్యాయని మేడం, మీకు వినిపిస్తుందా?
Hello.
Okay, good. So
Hello.
just some Katyani madam, he's heading the Prajaswamika Rachayitula Vedika, which is Democratic Women Writers Front. We want her to express solidarity in two lines for the cause of release of Saibaba on this occasion. Madam, oka rendu maatalu meer supporting ga maatladite it will be really encouraging to everyone.
Okay. Andarki namaskaram. సాయిబాబా జీవితంలో వస్తున్నటువంటి పరిణామాలన్నింటినీ ముందు నుంచి చూస్తూనే ఉన్నాం. వసంత నాకు మంచి స్నేహితురాలు. అయితే ఆయన అంత అనారోగ్యంలో ఉండి కూడా ఆయనను తల్లి మరణానికి కూడా ఈ రోజున ఆయన తల్లి మరణించింది. ఆ వార్త వినగానే నాకు చాలా బాధ కలిగిన విషయం ఏంటంటే ఆ తల్లి కొడుకు కోసం ఎంత కొట్టుకుపోయిందో ఆ ప్రాణం. అట్లాగే తల్లి చివరి మాట చివరి చూపు లేకుండా సాయిబాబా అక్కడ ఎంత బాధపడుతున్నాడో. వాళ్ళిద్దరిని తలుచుకున్నప్పుడు మరణించిన ఆమెని మరణంతో యుద్ధం చేస్తున్నటువంటి సాయిబాబాని తలుచుకున్నప్పుడు చాలా దుఃఖంగా అనిపిస్తున్నది. అంటే ఇంత అమానవీయమైనటువంటి పరిస్థితులలో మనం ఉన్నాం. అంటే ఆలోచించే వాళ్ళు, సమాజం మంచిని కోరేటువంటి వాళ్ళు, మార్పును కోరేటువంటి వాళ్ళు, రచయితలు ఎవరు ఎటువంటి భావాలు ఉండడానికి వీల్లేదు, ప్రజాస్వామిక భావాలు ఉండడానికి వీల్లేదు, వాటిని వ్యక్తం చేయడానికి వీల్లేదని చెప్పనని ఎంత నిర్దాక్షిణ్యంగా శాసిస్తున్నటువంటి సమాజంలో ఈ రోజున మనం ఉన్నాం. అది చాలా బాధాకరమైనటువంటి విషయం. ఈ సందర్భంలో అటు సాయిబాబా గాని లేకపోతే మిగిలిన రాజకీయ ఖైదీలందరినీ కూడా విడుదల చేయాలనే ప్రజాస్వామిక రచయితల పక్షాన మేమందరం కోరుతున్నాం. ఎందుకంటే ప్రజాస్వామ్యం ఎప్పుడు బతుకుతుంది అని అంటే మనుషులందరూ తమ భావాలను చెప్పగలిగిన రోజున, మనుషులు తమ భావాల కోసం పనిచేసేటువంటి పరిస్థితి ఉంటే అది ప్రజాస్వామ్యం. కానీ ఈ రోజున మనం ప్రజాస్వామ్యంలో ఉన్నామా అనేటువంటి ఒక సందేహం కలుగుతున్నది. అందువల్ల రచయితలుగా, కళాకారులుగా, మేధావులుగా, ఆలోచనాపరులుగా మనందరం కోరవలసింది అందరూ రాజకీయ ఖైదీలని విడుదల చేయడమే మనం కోరవలసింది. ఈ రోజున వసంతకి, వసంత కుటుంబం మొత్తానికి కూడా వాళ్ళ తల్లి మరణం పట్ల నా ప్రగాఢమైనటువంటి సానుభూతిని తెలియజేస్తున్నా.
Thank you so much, madam, for extending your support and encouragement to the crowd. This is very good and important to all of us. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker. We have Dr. Gopinath amongst us. I think he's the only one doctor in this country who has got hands-on detailing about the health condition of Saibaba. He's the one who has written the concluding remarks for the book what we have brought out to the public now. He has closely examined Saibaba's condition. Of course, I think there were 3 doctors are supposed to examine him, and for some reason the 2 doctors got dropped, and Dr. Gopinath ventured to examine him. Gopinath garu, na voice vinipistunda sir meeku? సార్ మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ చేయాలి, మీ వాయిస్ వినిపించట్లేదు. ఓకే 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 గోపినాథ్ గారు, మీరు సాయిబాబా మెడికల్ కండిషన్ గురించి, ఆయన పరిస్థితి ఎలా ఉన్న దాని గురించి మీరు ఆడియన్స్ తో షేర్ చేసుకోవాలని సరే కోరుకుంటున్నాం సార్. ప్లీజ్ స్పీక్ అప్ సార్. చాయిస్ ఆఫ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ ఇస్ యువర్స్.
ఓకే, గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ ఎవరీబడి. At the outset, I must congratulate all of you who have ventured to bring out this book on Saibaba, The Echo of Freedom. I know Saibaba for the past 20 years, and the first time when I examined him, actually he had a cardiac problem, that is a heart disease, which is known as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The tragedy in this case is, when I went to examine, when I was ordered or asked by Bombay High Court to examine Saibaba along with other two doctors. The other two doctors could not turn up. When I examined him, I saw one of the reports in Nagpur Medical College, Super Specialty Hospital. It was reported as normal heart, which surprised me. And I went back to his other reports from Delhi and as well as Hyderabad, along with my own reports. There is a manipulation even in the reports of Dr. Saibaba, who was examined by the specialists. Another important incident which I want to bring to all of your notice is, when I was present there, and we ordered for, asked for ultrasonography of abdomen because he was suffering from pancreatitis. That is one of the inflammation of one of the important organ which controls the sugar levels in the body. And also he had stones in the gallbladder, which is just below the liver. Actually, when I requested for these tests, one of the junior most doctor was asked to examine his do the ultrasonography. And he reported normal, which I objected again. I asked for a senior radiologist to do the ultrasonography. And these are only two examples which I want to bring to your notice to all of you, that even the medical reports are also tampered. I brought this to the notice of High Court, and there I was blamed that I am associated with Saibaba. I'm not. I don't say that whether I'm associated, I'm not associated, but actually as a doctor, as the court directed me to examine him and report it, when I reported that there is suspicion about the report itself, then I again countered it. And this is actually what happened. I brought to the Bombay High Court notice that these are the two things which surprised me, how these doctors who are qualified were managed by the state. I mean the police, the jail authorities. When I was examining Saibaba in Nagpur Super Specialty Hospital, actually my lip movement and my eye movements were examined. I mean, it were continuously under vigilance. And whatever Saibaba wants to say, actually when we are asked to examine a patient, and the patient should be alone or along with his relatives, and a doctor is supposed to examine, but that atmosphere was never there. This is also a highly objectionable one. And Saibaba, it is almost all of you know about his condition. Was his left hand was not able, he was not able to lift because his left hand was pulled by the police when he was arrested or kidnapped at Delhi University. And we thought of operating on him actually for the left arm ailment, but as he was having hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is a very dangerous condition. And suppose if the help is not there, even the small mental tension can cause his life. And rest of the things regarding the medical issues, everybody knows about it. He is 90% disabled personality, and he was not able to help. Now he is not able to lift his both hands. And every organ is damaged by not taking care of in time. So these are his medical records. I know the limitations of why the Bombay High Court is not giving parole. At this juncture, I must tell you, actually we are living in the 1930s conditions in Germany and Italy. And the brown shirt volunteers of Hitler, what he is doing, the khaki knicker lads are doing the same thing here. And this is one of the, as Dr. Nandita Narayan said, even the ABVP people are trying to attack him in Delhi University. Okay, why it's happening? We all must be able to think about it. Why it's happening in India? We are thinking that India is known as the largest democratic country, but I never believed it. It is not the largest democratic country. It is the democracy, the so-called democracy, is, as Perry Anderson put it, it is tied down. The Indian democracy is tied down in the golden cage of caste. I say here, Indian society, the intellectual community has failed to understand this clearly. And even today, what I say is the left movement or the right or the centrist or the so-called social democratic parties, even the left parties, they all failed or wantonly failed themselves to understand it. I feel it is the caste-controlled class society, and the Brahmana Baniya governments in this country are going to destroy the very fiber of the native people, that is the Dalits, the Muslims, the whoever they are. And I wish the intellectual community, especially, of course, now there is no possibility also. The universities are taken over, including JNTU, Delhi University, Hyderabad Central University, IFLU. This sort of universities are taken over by the most conservative elements, and the universities are manned by these people. So what is expected of now is at least the intellectual community who are feeling about Saibaba and his family. Just today morning, early morning, his mother is lost, and even by the Manu law, the son or the daughter is supposed to, even they are jailed, they are supposed to be attending their funerals. Anything? Me? Then questions. So, according to my medical examination report, most of the time he is not getting his medicines except the analgesics. Except analgesics, nothing is given to him as per the reports which I saw earlier, probably one and a half year back. So this is what I want to just tell you. His condition is precarious. His cardiac condition is very bad. His state is liver as well as the pancreas, and his both the limbs, lower and upper limbs, both are affected. All are affected, and his almost in total debilitated condition. So I wish the Indian state realizes his limitations and also come out for give him immediate parole to come out and get him treated in a better way. Thank you. Vijay, tell me. Able to hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Thank you so much. Sir, thank you so much. Because your submissions are very important and very critical to the entire audience. You know, కొంచెం మన తెలుగు వాళ్ళ కోసం కూడా కొన్ని విషయాలు చెప్పదలుచుకున్నాను. Of course, I want to ask you some one or two questions for you, especially the public may like to know from your hands-on experience. ఇప్పుడు మీరు చెప్పారు ఒక ఇద్దరు డాక్టర్స్ డ్రాప్ అయిపోయారని. మొత్తం there are 3 doctors who are directed to examine Saibaba. అందులో 2 doctors got dropped. అంటే దీంట్లో ఏమైనా స్పెసిఫిక్ రీజన్ ఏదైనా ఉందా, లేకపోతే ఒక మాట చెప్పారు, జూనియర్ డాక్టర్ ఒకటి ఎగ్జామిన్ చేసినప్పుడు, ఒక రిపోర్ట్ ఎగ్జామిన్ చేసినప్పుడు అది ఇట్ వాస్ జస్ట్ టేకెన్ యాజ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ అన్నది, అది కొద్దిగా ఎలాబరేట్ చేయగలరా?
When I was actually, I asked for a few tests, blood tests as well as echocardiography, which examines the heart, and also ultrasonography, which examines the abdomen, because he has got pancreatitis, he has got gallstones, that is what you call cholelithiasis in medical term. And when I was standing there, a junior house surgeon like doctor was examining him. He said there is nothing wrong in that. Then there earlier reports showed that there were gallstones, there were pancreatitis. So I objected for the examination by a junior doctor. I asked for a senior doctor. An associate professor came from radiology department. He did, and he reported what was reported earlier. And I examined echocardiography in Nagpur Super Specialty Hospital, and the doctor who was heading the department, he was also there. He agreed with our findings, and he agreed with our earlier findings of echocardiography by cardiologists. And there was one important report which is actually presented to the court as well as to the jail authorities, saying that his heart is normal. Are you able to hear me? Yeah. This is what it is.
Sir, ఇప్పుడు సాయిబాబా గారి కండిషన్ మీరు చూశారు కదా. I think just before he was meted the punishment, and he was in ICU, he was in hospital just before going to the court and pronouncement of the judgment. So judgment కంటే ముందు 3-4 రోజులు ఆయన హాస్పిటల్లో ఉండి తర్వాత తప్పనిసరి పరిస్థితిలో జడ్జిమెంట్ ప్రొనౌన్స్ చేసేటప్పుడు అక్కడ ఉండాలని చెప్పేసి ఆయన తీసుకెళ్లారు. సో తర్వాత కూడా మళ్ళా సో ఐ థింక్ మీరు ఆ టైంలో కూడా మీరు చూశారు ఆయన్ని. ఇప్పుడు ఒక సాధారణ మనిషికి ఎంత ఆరోగ్యం ఉంటుందో అసలు యాక్చువల్ గానే ఆయన ఉండే డిజబిలిటీ అన్నది మనకందరి ఉండే శక్తి సామర్థ్యాలు ఎంత ఉంటుందో అందులో ఓన్లీ 10% మాత్రమే కలిగిన వ్యక్తి. ఇక ఆరోగ్యం విషయంలోకి వస్తే ఆరోగ్యం విషయంలో ఒక సాధారణ వ్యక్తితో కంపేర్ చేస్తే ఆయన పొజిషన్ మీరు ఎలా అసెస్ చేయగలుగుతారు?
Position అంటే యాక్చువల్గా ఆయనకు ఉన్నటువంటి కండిషన్స్ మోస్ట్ డేంజరస్ కండిషన్స్ ఫర్ ఎనీ ఇండివిజువల్. హిస్ హార్ట్ కండిషన్ ఈస్ అన్స్టేబుల్, హిస్ pancreatitis is giving rise to pain, and he was only given and there was a suggestion by a neurologist to do certain tests which were not done by the time when I went there, and he was to get a provision of supporters. And also for his upper limbs, hands, there is supposed to be some cushion-like things which are supposed to be supplied, which were never done. He told me that nothing is given to him.
Correct. Okay, good. Actually, he was treated in such horrible conditions in prison. And he was lifted like a gunny bag.
Yes.
ఒక గన్నీ బ్యాగ్ లాగా ఎటు పడితే అటు తోసేయడం, ఎటు పడితే అటు వేయడం, తర్వాత ఒక ప్రాపర్ టాయిలెట్ ఫెసిలిటీస్ కూడా ఇవ్వకపోవడం అనేది జరిగింది. సో దానివల్ల ఆయన బాడీ అండ్ మైండ్ ఆల్సో డిటెరియేటెడ్ వెరీ సబ్స్టాన్షియలీ. I think muscle transplantation was also required at some particular point of time.
Yeah, actually muscle transplantation and tendon corrections and all those things were suggested by a senior doctor from Alani Institute, but it could not be done because he has got other ailments which are to take care of, because that should be done under the care of a cardiologist, an orthopedic surgeon, a neurologist, and a gastroenterology surgeon.
Great.
All these people are supposed to be are required to be there.
Great. Sir, okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, hands-on experiences. These are really useful to everyone. People must have heard about it and heard about his health conditions in media, social media, and all that. But then you're the one who has examined him so closely, and then it is very thankful to you that you're sharing your experiences. We are fortunate that you have the people's mind when you are working as a doctor. Great. Okay. Now we have మనకి ఇంకా ఒక ఇద్దరు స్పీకర్స్ ఉన్నారండి. సో ఆ ఇద్దరు స్పీకర్స్ తర్వాత మనము కంక్లూడ్ చేసేస్తాం ఈ మీటింగ్. కొద్దిగా ఐ థింక్ ఇట్ ఈస్ గెటింగ్ లిటిల్ కాకపోతే ప్లీజ్ బేర్ విత్ అస్. We have Ryan also from US who will speak about his experiences and how the struggle is going on in US for release of Saibaba. Tarvata we have Bammidi Jagadish Rao who can represent us from Telugu writers community. He has been a senior writer in Telugu community. Now నేను బమ్మిడి జగదీశ్వరరావు గారిని మాట్లాడమని కోరుకుంటున్నాను. ఆయన దృక్పథాన్ని పంచుకోమని చెప్పి నేను రిక్వెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను. బజారా అంకుల్. ఓకే అంకుల్, మీరు యూ కెన్ జస్ట్ గో ఆన్.
నేను ఈ దేశ పౌరుణ్ణి. నేను నా దేశం గురించి రాస్తాను, మాట్లాడతాను, పాట పాడుతాను. ఎందుకంటే ఇది నా దేశం. నేను ఈ దేశ పౌరుణ్ణి. నా దేశాన్ని కీర్తించే హక్కు, నా పాలకుల్ని నిందించే హక్కు నాకుగాక ఇంకెవరికి ఉంటుంది అని నమ్మి నడిచిన సాయిబాబాకు దేశం గురించి మాట్లాడడం దేశద్రోహం అయిపోయింది. ఢిల్లీ యూనివర్సిటీలో, అది తను పనిచేస్తున్న యూనివర్సిటీలో రిజర్వేషన్ల అమలు చేయాలని రాజ్యాంగబద్ధంగా హక్కులు మాట్లాడడం నేరం అయిపోయింది. యూజీసీ కంప్లైంట్ చేయడం తప్పయింది, నేరమైంది. రిజిస్ట్రార్ని పిలిచి రీకాల్ చేయడంతో పెద్దలకు అవమానం అయిపోయింది. రిజర్వేషన్లు అమలు చేయాల్సి రావడం అన్యాయం అయిపోయింది. అప్పటికే గ్రీన్ హంట్కి వ్యతిరేకంగా గొంతు విప్పడంతో కార్పొరేట్ వ్యాపారులు వెనక్కి వెళ్ళిపోవడంతో ప్రభుత్వం కక్షగట్టింది. అందుకనే ఆండాసెల్లో పెట్టింది, ఖైదును చేసింది. మహారాష్ట్ర గడ్చిరోలి డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ అహేరి పోలీస్ స్టేషన్ పరిధిలో దొంగతనం జరిగిందని చెప్పింది. అక్కడ దొంగలించిన సామాను ఇక్కడ సాయిబాబా వాళ్ళ ఇంట్లో ఉన్నాయని సెర్చ్ వారెంట్తో వచ్చారు. ఇంటిని దోపిడీ చేశారు. సొంత సరంజామాను సాక్ష్యంగా పెట్టారు. సత్యమేవ జయితే మన నినాదం, ఎందుకంటే సత్యమేవ జయితే మన నినాదం. కానీ ఒక మనిషిని నేరస్తుని అంతకన్నా ఎక్కువ దేశద్రోహిని చేస్తే వాళ్ళ భార్య, పిల్లలు, తల్లి, వాళ్ళ కుటుంబం పరిస్థితి ఏమిటి? ఆ కుటుంబానికి సంఘంలో ఎలాంటి పరిస్థితులు ఉంటాయి? వాళ్ళ సంబంధాలు ఎలా తెగిపోతాయి? దాని చుట్టూ ఎంత హింస ఉంది. అహింస పరమోధర్మ, అది మన నినాదం. ఆండాసెల్లో బంధించడం హింస కాదు. ఆసరా లేనిదే దైనందిన జీవితంలో గడవని మనిషిని వంటన చేయడం హింస కాదు. అనారోగ్య పరిస్థితుల్లోనూ వైద్య
shackles of slavery, wage slavery, of feudal bondage, that none of us are really free. And that to remain silent is to, in effect, be complicit in one form or another. In kind of learning about Saibaba and the work that he's doing, I began to do some of my own research and dive into things a bit more. And some others in the coalition as well have participated in this. And what I found is I was stunned by how much the US military and US government is involved in the ongoing civil war in India and in consulting in so many different ways. And the US government is basically, as many of you are probably aware, proposing and has been helping the Indian government, the paramilitaries, implement a strategy of low intensity conflict, which is officially modeled off the US strategy in Vietnam, the creation of strategic hamlets, which is a nice way of talking about concentration camps. In researching this more, I came to find out that although the US government claims that their strategy for these things is based off of the strategy pursued by the British in their counterinsurgency, that is their struggle to maintain colonial dominance in Malaysia, the reality is a lot of the US tactics are actually drawn directly from the Japanese fascist occupation of China and Northeast China in particular. And that these are similar policies being implemented today in Dandakaranya and Bastar. And, I think that speaks to the real need for people internationally to collaborate and support these struggles. And Saibaba, I think, was a great example of that, because the ruling elites around the world are learning from the most despicable and horrible practices that they do in one place and another. And historically, the horrible practices in the 20th century, such as the Japanese occupation, and in different ways, of course, we know with Golwalkar and Savarkar, the legacy of the RSS drawing from Italy and Germany in their fascist periods. And so, Saibaba has really been so much of an inspiration to learn about these things and to understand them better, and has clarified so much. And I have no doubt that his role internationally was a big reason that he was one of the first activists, first professors, first intellectuals targeted in this big roundup now of silencing dissent, which of course began under the Congress Party, but has only intensified under the BJP. And so in closing, I just really, I'll talk a little bit about the work we're doing in the coalition, but I just think that really people in the US have a big obligation to stand up against this stuff. People may have heard about Google's new $10 billion investment as US-China competition heats up, as these two countries fight to redivide the world. A whole bunch of companies are now shifting production from China to India. And so we know the US-India partnership amongst the elites will be stronger in the years, that the growing right wing in the US and the established right wing in India will be continuing to partner and share experiences and learn from each other, and all to oppress the people and keep them down and profit immensely. Accumulate immense wealth for a very, very small number of individuals. And so the people in our two countries have to really learn from each other and support each other and express solidarity for each other. And if we don't, then we really will fail each other, and it will play right into the hands of those who have such an interest in oppressing the people and such interest in carrying out horrible genocidal policies like Green Hunt, carrying out brutal lynchings like the killing of George Floyd, or there's so many brutal lynchings of Dalits that happen every day in India, and so much more. Now, our work in the Saibaba Coalition has been taking place on a series of different fronts. Some of you are probably familiar with some of the petitions that we've helped to create in getting a series of prominent scholars in Europe and in US and internationally to sign on to those. We've also been doing some different levels of work. In particular, we've been talking with a series of different classes, mostly in the US, UK, and Canada, about Saibaba's case, and kind of spreading the word about his case and using his case as a broader entry point to learn about what's going on in India with the rise of Hindutva and with the kind of neoliberal extractivist policies of these multinational corporations which loot the country in the name of development. And that's been immensely powerful, because we've seen how Saibaba's case resonates with so many, and how his work has really served to inspire a whole number of college students we've met to really learn more about international stuff, to see the links between things internationally and domestically, and to take up Saibaba's case as an important thing to fight for his release. And this is particularly important at the present moment when the RSS and the Sangh Parivar is really making a big effort internationally to kind of boost their image and consolidate their alliance, in particular with the US elite. And really, that's been apparent in Trump's recent visit to India, obviously, during the Delhi program, in Modi's visit to Houston in the UN, where he spoke on stage with Trump, his little rally there. But it's also been apparent in, for example, Tulsi Gabbard running for president in the US, or Joe Biden having Sonal Shah as one of his key advisors in his campaign. And the Sangh Parivar has really, I think, made very strong inroads into the US political sphere and seeks to present itself as the kind of international representative of Indians more broadly, of all NRIs. And they have strong ties at major universities. In many universities, heads of key departments will be linked up to the RSS through VHP America or through HSS. And a whole series of students will be kind of pushed to go along with these sort of politics or face serious academic consequences. And so there's been opposition we've mounted to them along those lines too. When Subramanian Swamy came to speak at MIT, we coordinated with a series of different NRI groups to organize protests against him and his visit. And right now, I believe it's VHP America is organizing to put a big advertisement up in Times Square in New York City to celebrate the groundbreaking on Ram Mandir and kind of the destruction of Babri Masjid. And so we've been organizing with a series of groups to oppose those things as well. Now, I mention all of that, just if I hadn't learned about Saibaba, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't understand these things. I wouldn't really have a sense of the importance of taking a stand on these issues. And a number of my friends and comrades and colleagues wouldn't either. And it's really been his work that has helped to clarify so much for us. I know I've repeated that a number of times, but I really can't say it enough. And it's just such a horrible atrocity what the government's doing to him, to try to make an example of him, to try to silence everyone, to say, look, if you speak up, we'll do this to you. We don't care if the international community speaks up. We don't care if the UN says anything. We don't care if professors from around the world say stuff. We'll just do it. And it gives me so much hope to see all of you here today, to see so many people refusing to be silenced, taking a stand. And so just in closing, I want to read one of Saibaba's poems that he's written from prison. It's a short one. And the poem is called The True Prison. Some of you may have already read it. It's not the high walls, nor the solitary cell. It's not the clank of keys, nor the sounds of surveillance. It's not the monotonous food, nor the cruel hours of lockup. It's not the pain, suffering, and isolation, nor the fear of death. Neither the emptiness of days, nor the blankness of nights. My friend, it's the lies that spread on the high tables of justice. It's not the canards thrown at me by the enemy of the people, nor the intrigues of criminal jurisprudence, nor the demagoguery of the political establishment. My friends, it's the silence of voices against the injustice done to the vast multitudes. Some silence is imposed, the rest is self-imposed. Some censorship is ordered, the rest is self-practiced. It's not the fear for the powers that be, but it's the fear in the voices to give voice to the voiceless. It's the moral decrepitude. It's the hubris of a civilization. It's the amnesia of our combined histories in struggles for a free society. Dear friend, it's this that turns our world into a true and dreary prison. And this poem was written as a letter to VV on October 24th, 2017. And I think it still is so relevant and so powerful. So thank you all very much for having me here.
Ryan, it's so nice of you that you shared several things, what is happening abroad beyond the borders of India. Again, for the benefit of our Telugu audience and non-English speaking people, just I want to put it in very brief, very succinct form. Ryan garu Saibaba gurinchi చాలా ఎంతో యాక్చువల్గా సాయిబాబాను రాయన్ ఎంతవరకు కలిసింది లేదు. కేవలం ఈఎస్ఏ వలన ఆయన వర్డ్ ఆఫ్ మౌత్ వలన సాయిబాబా గురించి తెలుసుకున్నాడు. తర్వాత సాయిబాబా గురించి కొంత ఆయన అధ్యయనం చేయగలిగాడు. సాయిబాబా ఎంతో మంది మేధావుల్ని, ఎంతో మంది విద్యావంతుల్ని ఆయన ఇన్స్పైర్ చేశాడు. ఈ గ్రీన్ హంట్ విషయంలో ఆయన చాలా వాయిస్ రేజ్ చేయగలిగాడు. ఇది ఈ న్యూ లిబరల్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, ఈ ఎఫ్డిఐస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, వీటన్నిటికీ వ్యతిరేకంగా ఆయన పోరాటం అనేది ఒక ఇంటర్నేషనల్ స్థాయి దాకా వెళ్ళింది. అది వీళ్ళు గ్రహించారు. ఇది తర్వాత వీళ్ళు అక్కడ చేస్తున్న ఉద్యమాలు కూడా అక్కడ ఏదైతే ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ శక్తులు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో వాళ్ళకి వ్యతిరేకంగా కూడా అక్కడ నుంచి అమెరికాలో కూడా వీళ్ళు ఫైట్ చేశారు. మోదీ వచ్చినప్పుడు కూడా ప్రొటెస్ట్ మార్చ్ చేశారు. అక్కడ ఎప్పుడైతే ఇక్కడ అయోధ్యని రామజన్మభూమి స్థాపించడం కోసం ఎప్పుడైతే ఇక్కడ భూమి పూజ చేశారో అప్పుడు అమెరికాలో జరిగిన ఒక ఒక ఏమంటారు దాన్ని, ఒక పండగ లాంటి సిచ్యువేషన్ కూడా వీళ్ళు టైమ్ స్క్వేర్ లో ఎదుర్కోవడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేశారు వీళ్ళు. అదేవిధంగా ఆయన చివరిలో ఒక కవితతో ముగించాడు. కవిత మొత్తం చదవడం కంటే కూడా బేసికల్ గా ఏంటంటే ఇది మనకు ఒక బాధకు సంబంధించింది, లేకపోతే మనం మనం ఇందులో సమస్య వచ్చేసి ఒక బాధకు సంబంధించినది కాదు, ఏ రోజైనా సరే చనిపోయగలిగే ఒక పరిస్థితిని క్రియేట్ చేసిన దాని గురించి మనకు చాలా వరీగా ఉంది అన్నది ఒక ప్రధానంగా చేశారు. అందులో చరిత్రను మర్చిపోయిన వీళ్ళు, చరిత్రను గుర్తించిన వీళ్ళు ఈ విధంగానే ప్రవర్తిస్తున్నారు అని ఆయన చెప్పడం జరిగింది. సో ఇప్పుడు ఈ పరిస్థితుల్లో ప్రపంచం మొత్తం జైలు అయిపోయింది, సాయిబాబా ఉన్నది మాత్రమే జైలు కాలేదు అనే విషయం చెప్తున్నాను. సో అండ్ Ryan, thank you so much. Are you able to hear me properly?
Yeah, sorry, I can hear you.
Yes.
I think it would be interesting for all of us to just understand from you, while you have shared certain experiences in the lines that, how legitimate the cause of Sai Baba's release is. You also mentioned about the Sanghi forces, how they are working in America. These Brahminical forces who are functioning very vehemently in Indian society. I think they're exporting this ideology, they're exporting the same culture wherever they go, especially in America. Probably, I think, can you share a bit more light into this when you are working there?
Yeah. So, what they've done is they have set up mandars in most every suburban area. And they kind of use these and a series of social groups they create to try to monopolize the kind of space for the diaspora. So they say, if you're an NRI, this is where you belong. Unless you're Muslim, then they don't want to deal with you, of course, their Islamophobia. And so they try to just force kind of the discourse about South Asia to be totally limited, in India to be totally limited to their rabbinical views. And then it plays out at every level, from the mandars at an early age to, going up through the schools where they have the professorships and they kind of have these series of so-called Hindu student councils, which are just rabbinical nonsense is taught there. And they use these to really kind of pretend that that's the only kind of discourse going on in South Asia. This is the way things are. They will use a series of kind of tactics based on, unfortunately, many Americans' ignorance of the situation in India. So they'll draw on Gandhi, or they'll kind of talk about how inclusive and tolerant Hinduism is without talking about the caste system and so on. And they'll rely on the fact that most people in the US, unfortunately, still don't know much more about India than maybe a little bit about Indian food and a little bit about Gandhi, and not so much about Gandhi. And so there's a lot more that they're doing. They have also a series of nonprofits established. They have deep links into the Democratic and Republican Party organizations. And what they also try to do is there's a lot of like second generation people here, whose parents came here or whose grandparents came here, and they're often interested in people with Indian origin who are interested in learning more about the country and their history and so on. And they try to like rewrite that history as they're doing in textbooks in India too. And they've even tried to frame things like caste as a good thing for the people in some textbooks, but they've been increasingly exposed on this front, especially since the lockdown of Kashmir last year. There's been it's almost a 1-year anniversary of that. Wow. There's been a series of articles and columns in prominent newspapers like New York Times, and a series of kind of news TV shows that have done specials about the rise of Hindutva. And so people's consciousness in this country is actually growing relatively quickly, and people are beginning to really understand what this Brahminical Hindutva fascism is really about, and to see it clearly as an oppressive and retrogressive ideology.
Good. Thank you. You know, just it is a it is very apt that I should share something here, probably for your knowledge and for all of us to just think over, you know, as per the scriptures of Hindu, a Brahmin loses his status of the position of Brahmin, who is on the upper echelon of the caste society, once he crosses the borders of India, once he crosses the borders. So this was one of the main reasons, you know, the Brahmins' hegemony, the hegemonial position in the social structure was supposed to be dampened when he crosses the borders. And that was one reason why the so-called first Indian freedom movement of 1857 Sipahi Mutiny has also happened. You know, those times the Brahmins felt that, you know, they were outraged because their hegemonial position was thwarted because the Sipahis are supposed to travel beyond the borders. You know, that was the condition. Now today, the Brahmin society, you know, most of them, they are turning out to be NRIs. Once they cross the borders, probably they are assuming more Brahminical position than what they were in India, right? Okay, good. Thank you so much. I think we are now about to conclude it. However, you know, this entire event is organized by Fresh Perspectives and Telangana Vidyavantula Vedika. I think it is very apt that we must hear a minute from Telangana Vidyavantula Vedika, Mr. Krishna Garu and Narayan Swami Garu. Saji Garu?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, can you just put Krishna Garu and then you can put Narayan Swami Garu, so that then after that I'll end up with the vote of thanks. This Telangana Vidyavantala Vedika is based out of US. You know, this is an intellectual forum which is working for the broad cause of marginalized sections, especially from Telangana. I think they have worked really wonderfully well in bringing up a separate Telangana movement. And they garnered wonderful support from NRIs, especially. Probably, I think this is one time we should be able to hear on this occasion. Please, Narayan Swami Garu, you can just go ahead and then maybe a minute you will take about yourself, and then Krishna will take over thereafter.
Jai Garu, and thank you, Gopal Garu. Thank you to everyone who participated in this meeting for the release of Professor Saibaba. It's as everyone has collectively stated, it's a very sad situation that Professor Saibaba's mother is no more, and she waited for him endlessly to see him out of the prison, and even her wait has come to an end. We are all waiting to see him come out of the prison, and Saibaba is so important for many reasons. And friend Ryan Castello, who has been working for the pre-Saibaba coalition, we all protested a couple of times in front of the Indian consulate in the US, in New York, and tried to express our dissent to release Professor Saibaba. Of course, all our efforts have been in vain, and I know many of you activists have been striving endlessly to bring him out, and all our efforts are also the Indian fascist government is not listening to or heeding any of these efforts. So Professor Saibaba is important for several reasons, because he is an example or an epitome of endless commitment, dedication for the people, for the people's cause. I mean, if he was an armchair intellectual, he would have been probably enjoying a better life outside. But he was committed in spite of his physical limitations, in spite of his ailing health. He still remains committed inside the cell, and still writes poetry, still writes articles, and still voices his opinion against the Indian government. All said and done, Saibaba being a Dalit is also a primary focus here, because we have seen how Dalits, minorities, Adivasis of India have been, and the marginalized communities of India have been treated for the past 6 to 8 years of this fascist rule. And the recent COVID pandemic has clearly showed that who is at the biggest loss when such things happen. The COVID pandemic has made the fascists more fascist. It has given legitimacy to their fascism. It has given legitimacy to their oppressive nature, and it has given legitimacy to whatever they do in the name of restraining pandemic. And people like Saibaba, or people like Varavan Rao sir, even though they have been ill and even though they have been sick, they are not allowed to even their relatives are not allowed to see them. And I know Vasanta has been trying to reach to everyone out to see if he can speak to Saibaba, if she can speak to Saibaba, if she can meet him, or if he can come out of the prison on a bail, at least considering the COVID pandemic situation, and the government, the NIA, is completely is turning its deaf ear to such requests, which is very sad. So there are several lessons that we can learn here. Expressing our voice collectively is an important thing. Despite our differences with Saibaba, if we have any, I think we should fight for his release, because no person, because of his political opinions, should be present. No person, because of his political opinions, should be incarcerated. No person, because of his writings, because of his thoughts, and because of his intellect, should be behind the bars for crimes they did not commit. I know Professor Saibaba was convicted, and we're all not even bringing that case up front because we're just asking for a bail for him. But why was he convicted? What was the mistake he made? I think Bajra spoke in his words, the kind of case, the false implications, the false accusations that were made against Professor Saibaba. And I think those all should be even excavated now. Those all should be brought up now. And I know under the circumstances when NIA has not even caring for the international voice, it's very hard. But we should, I think the question should be, why was he first of all behind the bars? Why was he convicted? Why was he incarcerated? For no reason, for no mistake that he has committed, just for voicing opinion for the people. Why was Sudha Bharadwaj incarcerated? Why is Vernon Gonzalez incarcerated? Why is Gautam Navlaka incarcerated? So these questions, they're all under trial prisoners. Nothing is going on there in the court for the past 18 months or 19 months. And Professor Saibaba has been behind the bars for the past 6 years for all false accusations, and nobody can prove them because they're all false. So I don't think I should take longer time because it's been pretty late in India also. But again, we want to see Professor Saibaba out. We want to see him between us, and we want to see his smile. I know he's still smiling behind the prison bars, but we want to see him with us. And Professor and Dr. Gopinath has explained his ailing health very clearly. So I'm so saddened to see nothing is moving in any front. And raising this voice is very important. Releasing his book is very important, and telling the world that Professor Saibaba is very much alive, very much rebellious, very much revolutionary behind the bars is important. And raising a voice against this fascist government is very, very important under these circumstances. So congratulations, Vijay and Gopal for organizing this. It's a really good effort, but we should continue to move this effort forward relentlessly to see Professor Saibaba and other incarcerated people outside. Thank you.
Narayan Sagar, thank you so much, Andy, for the encouraging, and thank you so much for the support. Of course, can we just move on to Mr. Krishna Garu? Yeah, Krishna Garu, mute. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay. And at the outset, I would like to congratulate Mr. Vijay and Saji, who have taken this initiative to release the book Echoes of Freedom. And on behalf of Telangana Vidyavantul Vedika, I would like to congratulate Vijay and Jayadit Tirmal Rao sir for taking up this initiative. And we express our deep condolences on the demise of the mother of Professor G. and Saibaba Garu. May her soul rest in power. And at this juncture, I would like to I would like to state the objective of Telangana Vidyavantul Vedika, and say that it has been established for the formation of taking forward the struggle of Telangana statehood, for the formation of Telangana statehood to Telangana. And even after the formation of Telangana, we are speaking on behalf of the marginalized and all the deprived who have been raising their voices for the voiceless. So we express our demand. We express our demand for the release of Professor G. and Saibaba, Varavar Rao, and all other political prisoners who are mugging up in the jail, and for no fault of theirs. And at this juncture, it is a critical situation where it is a repeat of situation that in 1975, in June 1975, the emergency was imposed in India by the then Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, and it is almost the undeclared emergency now in India that is prevailing. And in this context, if I'm permitted, I would like to read out a few lines in Telugu, verses in Telugu, and end my message. It is titled as Samantaralu. May I take this opportunity to recite the poem, a few lines of the poem, and continue it. June 1975, June 1975, చరిత్రలో ఈ నెల నుండి 636 రోజుల సుదీర్ఘ సంపూర్ణ సూర్యగ్రహణం. నియంతృత్వ నర్తకి కరాల నృత్యం చేసిన కాలం. గొంతెత్తితే గరళం బోసుడే, కలం గదిపితే కత్తులు దింపుడే, జైళ్ళన్నీ నిండు గర్భిణీడు, ప్రజాస్వామ్యం చిరునామా బొందలగడ్డ, దేశంలో 19 నెలల ప్రకటిత అత్యవసర పరిస్థితి. ప్రస్తుతం ఇంకెన్నాళ్ళు. ఇప్పుడు అమ్మా అన్న ఆర్తనాదం కంటే అంబా అన్న అరుపుకే విలువెక్కువైనది. అడుగు తీసి అడుగేయలేని వికలత్వం జైల్లో బంధించిన రాజ్యంతో, మృత్యువుతో అవిశ్రాంత యుద్ధం చేస్తున్న నిస్సహాయ అడవి బిడ్డల గొంతుక. జీవితకాలం ప్రజల వెతలను పాటలుగా రాసిన కలం హత్యాకుట్రలు పన్నుతున్న దేశద్రోహట. కల్బుర్గి, పన్సారే, దబోల్కర్, గౌరీ మతం మత్తులో జోగుతున్న మూకలు ఇంకెందరిని బలిగొంటారో. రాజ్యాంగ విలువల సమిదపై దేశాధినేతల శవాసనాలు. ఇప్పుడు దేశంలో అప్రకటిత అత్యవసర స్థితి. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I congratulate Telangana Vidyavantul Vedika North America for taking up this initiative. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's so nice of you, Krishna Garu. It's a beautiful and very brief message to all of us. Now, I think it is time to wind up. There are wonderful audience over here who have really, spent their time to come and listen to the speakers. They are very keen civilians of India, that India should progress in a right manner. Who have come all over and then spend so much of time with each of us. So primarily, there are thanks due to lot of people. We must say that the conditions in which we are all gathering here are very, very precarious conditions. The surveillance is on. Your every step is monitored. You don't have any privacy. You don't have any right to express what you think all right, what you think not all right. In these conditions, when Heni Babu was dastardly arrested, I would put that way, and we are under circumstances where UPA amendment took place, and you must all remember that when UPA amendment took place, the Home Minister has given out a statement that the brain of an individual is a center of terrorism. These are the exact what he has used. What he's trying to do, and his state, the Sanghi forces, the rightist Brahminical forces doing in this India is they are trying to control the brains. And as a matter of first step, and a matter of, they've been doing it. This is what is the modus operandi of this. So they're trying to control the brains, and Saibaba has fallen a victim of this. They're trying to frame false charges. He underwent a wrong in a falsified interrogation manner and all that. Also, if you remember the UPA amendment, when he has announced, he has also mentioned that we are not going to use this unreasonably on anybody. So when some individual says that unreasonably, it is his discretion that he's going to use how the law is going to be. So we are at some countenance of a certain individual, how to interpret your lives, how to interpret your words, how to interpret your each and every moment. So I think he was democratically putting entire thing to the public, though seems to be, but then he's also sending a subtle warning to everyone. I think this is the time everyone should be alert. Whether you are in forest or whether you are an urban, you are an excel. And if you are able to raise voice against the establishment. So thank you everyone. My heartfelt thanks goes to Nandita ma'am for accepting this invitation, and she's sat through whole of the event. Thank you, madam, and Sanjay Kakji, who has delivered a nice lecture, and he has shared a good perspective to everyone. And of course, Dr. Gopinath Garu, who has got hands-on experience, and he is able to address certain inherent, innovative questions what we have on health of Saibaba. He was able to really educate us on medical issues. Of course, Jaidir Tirumala Rao Garu, he's the one who is in the forefront. I don't need to thank him. In fact, he has to thank him for bringing up this. Then Bajara, thank you so much. You spent time. The Telugu writers' voice, hopefully it is heard very well. And of course, Katyani madam, thanks for pitching in. It was so kind of you. And some more thanks. It is very apt that you must remember all those people who made this event happen. This is especially we are talking about this situation in abnormal conditions, I would put it that way. So we brought this book. Thank you for my other friends, Mohan Babu and Duppala Ravi Kumar, who has made this book possible. And I thank Prarave, Fresh Perspectives, and Telangana Vidyavantula Vedika, who has made it. And of course, there is A.K. Prabhakar, who has helped a lot, who is a literary critic, who has helped a lot in bringing the book. Chupu Katyani madam, definitely, my thanks are very much due to you. And Lalita madam and Guram Sitaramudu, who has helped me in bringing out this book. Of course, Nakul Singh Sahani, who wrote foreword to this book. Nakul is a filmmaker, whose movie made the happening of Rohit Vemula's incident, which prompted these Brahminical forces to kill Rohit Vemula on that pretext. Nakul, thank you so much, Nakul bhai. And there is one Mr. Krishna Rao, who is not present here. He's a senior advocate in High Court of Telangana. He has been there with us in the legal matters, and he has really helped us a lot. Of course, Telangana Rachayitula Vedika, who have taken initiative in bringing up the book, and of course Bajara and Lenin, who have helped in making this book possible. And of course, there is Dalit writer Puli Kavita, who has also put her energy in bringing this book. And lastly, my sister's daughter, Manasa Enduri, has also stood as a support to bringing up this book. My dear friends, this is a position where the situation is not so easy nowadays. Heni Babu, people like Heni Babu are getting arrested. Heni Babu is a man who stood against the Brahminical forces vehemently and without any compromise when expressing in clear terms against the establishment. I think we need to get alerted, and it is very important that we should all raise the voice. I hope that there should be more and more events which will be coming up. As intellectuals, I think as we are fed from the society to grow up to this extent, and we are able to speak, and we are able to analyze, and we are able to put the things in clear terms better than anybody else. And in, coming from these sections, that it is very imperative duty on part of each and every one that we must at least raise a voice against the existing state of affairs of the Indian continent. Thank you, one and all. Saji Garu, and the final thing, Saji Garu has been a wonderful man. He has extended end-to-end support to this. I'm so glad about this. We will really have to work so many things going forward. And all the speakers, thank you so much. We will be looking forward to take your insights some more in future events. Thank you, all audience who are all wonderful, who are watching in Facebook and Zoom and all that. I think we should end now. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
We're ending the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please, you can log
All
off.
the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saji Garu, I think we can disconnect. Again, okay.